When we talk about clarity, most of the time, effective hybrid leadership. So let's go over that again. This hybrid playbook, hybrid team playbook is going to have 4 things. So let's talk about choosing the right tool. And then once you choose a tool, I found stick with it for at least 90 days. We want everybody on the team to feel valued as a team member, whether they're hybrid, whether they're together. Maybe you're the one that's hybridized. Hybrid teams can feel disconnected. I've given examples there, so I'm not going to go over that. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to today's episode. Do you work in a remote environment? Hybrid environment, maybe it's a full virtual environment. Maybe you're showing up to the office and you got employees, team members that are dispersed, either globally or within the United States. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to revolutionize management strategies. Don't use your old management strategies. Prior to COVID, even though there were a lot of businesses that were in a virtual mode or a hybrid mode, there are tools now that came out outside of the environment that we knew, and we are still managing. I find that a lot of companies still are using old leadership, old management principles and philosophies, and it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. So if this is you, this episode, we are going to discuss 3 strategies, and I'm going to give you some actionable, practical things that you can begin to work with your teams, work with yourself right as soon as you get done listening to this episode. As always, get out your journals, get out your notes. This is an active listening podcast. None of this stuff is fluff. This is my experience. A lot of what I've done working with my teams, working with clients and their businesses. These are strategies that I promise you will work. If you are in a hybrid environment, you're going to want to listen. So one thing before we begin, click on that subscribe button. It gets this episode and this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. I would appreciate it. It helps grow this channel. It helps grow the Go Be Great community. And in the end, we're able to help others get to where we're going. So let's get into the first strategy today. And when we talk about, redefining hybrid management for clarity, it's this chaos that we sometimes find ourselves in when we're in a hybrid environment. You may have half your team in the office. The other half may be fully remote. The other half may be just some part of in and out. Maybe they have certain days where they telework or they come into the office. It can stress people out. It can put fatigue on a team. And those little cracks begin to get bigger and bigger and bigger in our teams to the point where people begin to feel disconnected. So when we talk about clarity, most of the time, effective hybrid leadership, and this is something that is based in research. In order to be an effective leader in a hybrid work environment, you got to have 1, you got to be intentional about your guidelines. And then 2, you have to balance the flexibility with accountability. And that's where I see people fall short. 1, they got maybe good guidelines. These are the work hours, they've established meetings, and we'll talk more about that. But then they don't hold people accountable. And as we look at somebody who may be showing up a little bit late or isn't really available when they need to be available, that is something you have to deal with as a manager, as a leader, as a business owner, because people begin to see that. And then they're like, well, John's not holding Jeff accountable for showing up late or not being available. Maybe I can do that. If you've seen this, or maybe if you've experienced this on a team, it can go downhill pretty quick. So as a leader, 2 big things that I've identified for effective hybrid leadership. 1, set those guidelines, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then 2, you got to have that balance between flexibility and accountability. So one thing here, application, and we talked about this in one of the episodes for this season. So go back and listen. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that episode, but go back and to listen about the guidelines and how important that is, especially when you're working in a hybrid environment. I have developed a hybrid playbook. It's a sports analogy. Everybody normally, a sports team has a playbook and it has all of their plays in it. That's what this is. It has our meeting times, when we meet, who's meeting, the medium, whether it's an in-person or it's in a room. We're going to meet in a conference room, and the people who are in the office will meet in a conference room, and then everybody else virtually will log in virtually. Whatever that looks like, it is going to identify expectations of a hybrid work environment. So start times, end times, availability. It's going to identify communication. It's going to identify our meeting protocols. So again, back to, how long are meetings? Where are we going to meet for virtual meetings? Are there going to be any in-person meetings? And then the last thing, this is where the accountability, that balance between flexibility and accountability, it's going to have performance matrix in there. So let's go over that again. This hybrid playbook, hybrid team playbook is going to have 4 things. 1, you're going to identify your expectations. 2, you're going to lay out how communication is going to be handled. 3, meeting protocols. And 4, performance metrics. Those 4 things are going to be part of your playbook. In that playbook, you are going to go over with every single member. I like to do this in a one-on-one format. And then during your quarterly meetings or maybe biannually, you're going to bring that playbook out and you're going to refresh it. What do we need to start, stop, and continue? What are things that we may need to add? A great way to refresh everybody on the expectations, how we're going to communicate, the meeting protocols, and then the performance evaluation. So that strategy, redefining clarity around hybrid teams, how you're going to lead, how you're going to manage, do it through a playbook. The second strategy we're going to talk about, the topic today, is leveraging those digital tools. And this is going to streamline your communication. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, when communication starts to break down, and specifically when we have a hybrid team, a virtual team, it can go pretty quickly, faster probably than if everybody was in the office. The reason I think that it deteriorates faster is because you're not in the same vicinity. If I need to get a hold of somebody, and it's an emergency, and they're in the office, I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk over there, I'm going to knock on the door. In a hybrid environment, that's not the case. So digital tools, a couple things. When there are breakdowns in our digital tools, and this could be a number of reasons why there could be breakdowns. Maybe it's not reliable. Maybe the internet connection, there's still parts of the US that have spotty internet connection. But when those things happen, it increases frustration. It tends to decrease productivity. And one thing, as people become frustrated and then they're idle, that could lead to burnout. So it's important for us to identify those communication tools that are going to help us work through I'm not just talking about meetings in Zoom. I'm talking about how you're going to communicate. And we'll talk about some tools here in a little bit, when you're going to communicate and really get clear around what needs to be communicated, what needs to be in an email, what can go into an instant message, what can go into a group message, right? All of those things, get very clear with your teams about. It's going to enhance your communication, and the tool itself can be a big factor in that. So let's talk about choosing the right tool. And then once you choose a tool, I've found stick with it for at least 90 days. Give it 90 days. When we find a tool and it's the shiny object and we use it, and then a month later, 30 days later, we got another tool that's available to us and we're using that. Pretty soon, you got 5 tools and nobody remembers which tool's the main one, and everybody's trying to use all 5. There goes frustration. There goes your decrease in productivity, and that burnout begins to surface again. Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. So pick a tool and stick with it. How do we do that? How do we pick a tool effectively? 3 things. I want you to explore your available tools and write them all down. What is available? You'd be surprised, even if you've worked for a company for quite some time, and especially if you own your own business, look at what's out there. You may already be on Google, so there may be tools that you're going to use in the Google suite. You may be in Microsoft, so there are tools within Microsoft that you're going to use. There's Slack, there's WhatsApp, there's other tools that you can use outside of a lot of the mainstream, especially if you're a small business owner. You're looking to, the most efficient and most effective and cheapest option out there. There are a lot of free or very small fee tools that you can use. So explore all your available options. Write them on a board. You know how I am with my marker boards. Get them all out on the board and then go through pros and cons of each one. So that's the first step. The second one, once you pick a tool, explain why you picked it. If others in the team or in your company weren't involved with picking the tool and it was you as the business owner, you as the leader, explain why you picked this tool. And again, go back to your pluses and minuses. Here's all the cons that, went into my decision, and here's the benefits that we're going to get out of using this tool. So that's step number 2. And then step number 3, establish a cadence. Well, what do you mean, John? Does that mean every 5 minutes that I'm tweeting something or messaging something? No. Here's what I'm talking about when I talk about establishing a cadence. Monday morning, I come in, I wish everybody a great week. Monday afternoon, I remind everybody to have another great week. Tuesday, it's our team meetings. So team meetings, I normally will send out reminders if reports are due or action items, anything like that. That's what I mean by cadence. So it can be a weekly cadence. It can be a daily cadence. It can be, I need a message, just short bursts of information that an email probably is just too formal for. I'll put it in the group email. Those are just short reminders about, hey, I'm going to be out of the office tomorrow, or hey, have a great weekend, or hey, get your time cards done. Whatever that looks like, establish a cadence. So for this particular part, when we talk about leveraging digital tools to create clarity around communication, I want you to evaluate your tools, pick them. You're going to explain the why to everybody and anybody who asks. And then the third one, you are going to establish some sort of cadence, some regular cadence around how you're going to communicate through that tool, and you will see the momentum. You'll see others pick up on that cadence. That can be something that you identify in your hybridized playbook, is the cadence of the communication. Again, another great thing for you to be able to, just a tool in the toolbox for us as leaders and as business owners when it comes to communication. And we do that through digital tools. So that's the second strategy. The third one here, and this is really one that I spend a lot of time with leaders and business owners on, and that's fostering team culture and connection when they're hybridized. It can be very hard, especially if you have one or two. You may have a group of people in a main office, and then you got some satellite individuals that are out. For those individuals that are satellite, that are on their own, make sure that they're involved. One thing that I've caught myself doing here recently, and this is really opposite to what you would think, is I pay attention more to the virtual audience than I do the people in the room. I will even go to the fact where we'll do go-arounds and I'll call on everybody in the virtual environment and I forget to call on the folks that are in the room with me. It's that bias that we have as human beings, and we need to be aware of it, but that's the connection piece. We want everybody on the team to feel valued as a team member, whether they're hybrid, whether they're together. Maybe you're the one that's hybridized and your team is in another area and you're the one who's communicating with them virtually. All right. So here, hybrid teams can feel disconnected. I've given examples there, so I'm not going to go over that. And then the second thing that I have written down here is be purposeful about how we build culture. And culture is built on trust. So people have to trust, just like you have to trust them, that they are working in a hybridized environment. I remember talking to my dad, and he was in person. He was old school management model, great leader. He led for majority of his career. He got into management very early. And he said, I just don't know how you do it. I do not know how you lead a team that's virtual. In all of my organizations and all of my team, there are virtual aspects to every single one of them. So for me as a leader, I didn't know any different. I walked into a virtual environment where I had people spread across different time zones. I got people globally. You have groups or pockets of folks in one area, and you got one person who's single, and you got a team of, it is just the nature of the environment that I stepped into. But not everybody did that. Some people worked in that environment where you could go walk out your door and knock on somebody's door, and now you're waiting on a status indicator for them to go green so you can ping them and ask, right? So there are certain things that we can do as leaders, and we're going to talk about them, around rituals. And these rituals, team rituals, can go a long way when we talk about building that culture for a hybrid team. So the first one here, virtual lunches. I love to do this one. A day a month, we pick a virtual lunch, we spot on the calendar, send out the invite, and we celebrate birthdays during that one virtual event. Great way to get everybody together. Everybody, we celebrate, we clap, we do little virtual balloons, all of those things. But we do that is a team ritual. Once a month, we all meet up for a virtual lunch. So that's one. Challenges. Here's the second one. We've done everything from step challenges to we had a challenge one time that there was this little icon and we used it at work, and we would go out and people would put it behind them in their backgrounds and you had to identify it. So that's a challenge, right? Challenge to identify, kind of hide and go seek, virtual hide and go seek, if you want to call it that. Other challenges around maybe things that have to do project related or work related, where you make so many sales calls or you generate so many leads, or if you're in a production or maintenance type, you might do some challenges around a safety record, that 100 days or 200 days or something like that. But those are challenges that you can do, and you don't have to be in the same location to do these challenges. So that's the second one. The third one that I have written down, digital recognition. I love to recognize people just with a simple thank you. Or you could even do a $10 Starbucks card or a $10 Amazon card. You just send it to their email and let them know, hey, appreciate you, sent you an Amazon card, buy something nice, or whatever you want to do. $10 isn't a lot, but that's not the point. The point is that they feel as if they feel heard, and they feel seen, and they feel appreciated. And in the end, in a virtual environment, that's what we really want to get to, is the appreciation part. And then if you have the option, get together at least once a year in person and pick a place where, do your work, but there's also entertainment in the evening or team building or something that, you as the team, you as the leader, you as the business owner can go out and just after hours type stuff. You can go get something to eat, go get something to drink, go have a team building activity. We've done everything from ropes courses to, gone to simulators, golf simulators. There's a lot of different team building activities. And even if it's not everybody's thing, I have found that people get around food and they start to open up. When we share food as human beings, it just creates almost like the barriers kind of come down, and we're able to communicate, we're able to build that trust that's important for a culture, especially in a hybridized team. So the 3 strategies that we talked about are going to help chaos move to clarity, and we don't have to do it by just working harder at it. Remember, redefine hybrid management for clarity. So get that playbook. Number 2, what are your digital tools? What's available? Pick one and stick with it. And then 3, foster culture, which you can do through connection. So those team building activities, the team rituals that we talked about, those are important to get that culture where you want it to be. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you like it, share it with somebody. It means the world to me. Leave a comment, a question. Have you tried any of these things? Are there other activities or other strategies that you've had that you've personally tried or seen that are working? I'm open to anything you got. I'll incorporate it into my playbook, and who knows, we might have an episode on it. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.